Number one, I don't think we've ever met in my bed for a monthly reading wrap up yet. So that's fun. And number two, this is the last monthly reading wrap up of 2024. That's crazy. So that's insane. I literally do not know where this year went. It went by so freaking fast. Like, so fast. Whoa. Anywho, I'm here today with you to wrap up my 2024 December reading. Off the top of my head, I don't know the order of when these videos are coming out, but if it hasn't come out already, the whole entire year of 2024 wrap up is coming soon, but we still have December to wrap up. So that's what we're doing today. As always, because I'm a statistics person, we are going to start with the statistics of the month. In the month of December, I read 17 books, 3 of which were from my yearly TBR. As far as the format that I read them in, I read 1 from the library, 2 on my Kindle, 4 physically, and 10 audiobooks. I am literally turning into an audiobook fiend. It is like so bad. For my ratings, I gave out 1 DNF, 1 2-star, 3 2.5 stars, 3 3 stars, 4 3.5 stars, 4 4 stars, and 1 5-star. That gave me a lovely average of 3.14 stars per book. And then last but not least, the pages that I read this month. The shortest book I read was 30 pages, but that was my DNF. And the longest book that I read was 598 pages. In total, this month, I read 6,255 pages, which gave me an average of 367.94 pages per book. But those are my statistics for the final month of 2024, and now that we're there, we can talk about the books themselves. So, without further ado, let's dive in to talking about the worlds that I read about this month. Starting off very strong, we have Fairy Tale by Stephen King. I have never before in my life read a Stephen King novel, but that one, oh boy, was that one to start with. I know Stephen King is mostly known for his horror books. This one is not a horror book, very much fantasy. Duh. Though I've never read a fantasy written quite like how he wrote Fairy Tale, that was an experience. And adding to that, I don't think I've ever read such an in-depth fantasy before. Like, that's amazing, you guys. That was beautiful. Ever since I finished Fairy Tale, I have found myself, while I'm reading, to be like, can you describe this more? Like, what's actually happening? And I honestly think that reading this behemoth of a novel, this is my 598 page novel, by the way, this behemoth of a novel has completely shifted how I view both Stephen King as an author and how I look at other authors, because this was magnificent. No notes. 10 out of 10. Well, I gave it 4 stars, but it was really good, okay? To dumb this plot down to literally like toddler level, we are following Charlie. Yes, the entire time I was listening to this, I heard his name was Charlie from the Charlie bit my finger. I don't want to talk about it. We follow Charlie as he helps out his elderly neighbor after he falls off a ladder. And because of the bond that he builds with this very grumpy old man, he discovers something new about the world, which is like the fairy tale aspect of this. It starts off as like a literary and then shifts to very much a fantasy, whimsical, almost kind of eerie aspect, which I absolutely ate up, absolutely loved. I really do not have anything negative to say about this. I don't think it was dragged out too much. I don't know what you would have cut. Like, I love the detail and the love and the care and the time and effort that was very clearly put into this book. I adore this book. I adore Fairy Tale by Stephen King, and I 110% am going to be picking up another one by him because, wow, that was a magical experience. And honestly, if he hasn't, Stephen King, please write another fantasy. That was wonderful. Like, that was genuinely wonderful, and I would like to experience some more of your wonder in the future. Please and thank you. Next up, we have Hello Stranger by Catherine Senner. I am becoming a Catherine Senner girly, and I am becoming a Catherine Senner girly very quickly. I read The Bodyguard by her earlier this year. I absolutely loved The Bodyguard. That's a great book. Oh my gosh. And because of the love that I have for The Bodyguard, I decided to pick up another book by her, which in this case was Hello Stranger, like I said. And this one was a completely different concept, but still romance. And oh my gosh, did I love it. I cannot remember names of this novel, but in here, our female main character has to go through a brain surgery, and because of this brain surgery she loses her facial recognition for a while, so she really doesn't know who she's talking to, she doesn't know who she's interacting with, and it's also affecting her career because she's an artist who just got accepted into this gallery but literally cannot do her job because she can't see faces, like it's not there, right? But while going through all of this, she becomes very close with her neighbor, who is the main male character that she ends up falling in love with. It's a romance, so they fall in love, right? But there's just so many other factors that make this book so funny, so witty, so hilarious, and just truly like a beautiful story of just love. And I loved it. I loved it so much. Because I listened to this book as an audiobook, I also like listened to the acknowledgments for once in my life. And Catherine Center said something that it genuinely stuck with me. And like, whoa, you're right. Type of way. She was talking about how she loves writing romance books, and people are like, oh, why do you read romance books, they're so predictable, but she's like, they're not predictable, they're comforting, and they're, oh my gosh, what is the word she used? It's not predictable, it's like people are looking for that happy fairy tale ending. It's an escape, and it's not repetitive, but oh my gosh, it was such an intelligent word and I can't remember it. I bring it up because it changed my life and now I can't even remember the word. Comforting? Maybe it was comforting. Like, we know what's gonna happen. We know there's gonna be a happy ending, so we keep reading to find that happy ending. Does that make sense? Like, it's like that word. But ever since hearing that, oh my god, whatever that word was, it was genius, and it has changed my perspective on reading as a whole. Because yes, while romances can be quote unquote predictable, they're also comforting, and that's why people read them, and that's why people fantasy too. Like, if you look at fantasy overall as a genre, I've said this 110 times. Fantasy is very overall arching theme, happens in every single book, but it can either be good or be bad, right? And I think that totally translates. Like, it's gonna happen. Everything's gonna happen. They're gonna meet. Something's gonna happen. They're gonna fall out, but then they're gonna come back and they're gonna figure it out, because that is what we love in romance books. And in fantasies, it's the character goes on a journey and then they find out something about their world that isn't real, and then they have to cope with the new world, and typically that leads to like a war or something, right? Like, we know what's going to happen, but we don't really know, right? And I think it's that anticipation, maybe that's the word. Either way, she's a genius. I love Catherine Center and I love Hello Stranger. I have another one of her books on hold already. It's been on hold for literally almost 2 months. I think it's the rom-commers. It's this one right here. It might not be the rom-commers, but it's something like bon-amers, like, it's like a play on words. Anyways, I'm really excited to read it. It might be the rom-commers. There totally is a book called The Rom-Commers, but I don't know if it was Catherine Center who wrote it. Anyways, I'm getting off track. Hello Stranger by Catherine Center. Please read this book. Please read anything by Catherine Center. I love her. I think you will too. Catherine Center, thank you so much for existing. I look forward to visiting so many more of your books in 2025. Please write more books. I want to consume everything that has ever come out of your little brain. It is a wonderful place to be. Next up, we have Off Track by Isha Patel. This book was my DNF of the month, and it was just because it was not, no. To dumb it down, this is like an F1 Formula racing romance where they're on like separate teams, and she's like, I think it was like the first female to race in the Grand Prix, like the really big one, F1, duh, holy god. Sorry, that was the dumbest thing to ever come out of my mouth. She's the first female to race in F1, and she falls in love with another driver, right? I only read 30 pages of this book, and I put it on here because technically that was 20% of the book, so I met my goal or whatever. But honestly, I could not see them becoming anything more than friends, and I didn't want to read about it and be like, oh yeah, woohoo, because I really wasn't rooting for them to become anything more, because I didn't see it, okay? I also did not like the writing of this book. It really peeved me. It was not it. It was just not it. I also think now, looking back at it, that it could have also been the fact that I was coming off of a Catherine Center book, a Catherine Center romance. Like, I love her. I love Catherine Center, obviously. And absolutely no offense to Isha Patel, but it's very different writing and just content in general, and I don't think my brain was ready to jump into another romance after literally loving the hell out of the one that I just finished. Could have been more of a me issue, but I just didn't like it, and I do not see myself coming back to it. However, this has made me want to read a racing romance book, and I'm pretty sure that Lauren Asher has written a series, the Throttled series. I gotta read those, because wow, I like the concept, but the execution wasn't great. Next up, we have another physical book that I have, which is The Inmate by Freida McFadden. With this one, I am just continuing my search to hopefully become a Freida McFadden girly. That is literally all that I want in life. I just want to become someone who enjoys Freida McFadden books. And this one was pretty good. So, guess I have to hold it. But the inmate, I actually really funnily, uncoincidentally, ended up buddy reading this with one of my friends who also reads. I accidentally got her hooked on Freida McFadden, and now she's like working through her entire discography of books, or catalog, or whatever it's called. And we ended up reading this one at the same time. I kid you not, she texted me while I was like 75% of the way through the book and was like, oh, you read The Inmate by Freida McFadden, right? And I was like, no, but I'm literally reading it right now, lol, why? And she's like, oh my god, I need to talk to you about it. So I very quickly finished like the last, I think it was like 25% I had of the book, and we talked about it, and it was so, I love her. Lace, if you're watching this, I love you so much. We need to buddy read something else. Anywho, The Inmate by Freida McFadden is a thriller, obviously. That's what Freida McFadden is known for. This one I did like, but I don't think I liked it as much as Ward D. I still really like Ward D. And even though this one going into it seemed to have like kind of the same concept, they really didn't follow the same storyline path at all. In reference to Ward D, by the way, if that wasn't obvious. Which I'm actually really glad for, because if it would have been that, I probably would have not liked this one as much if they were exactly the same, but they aren't. Okay? They literally sound exactly the same, but they're not, I promise. I will say though, this one completely threw me off guard. Like, this thriller is like a, oh my gosh, you know, should defy the odds and do this, but then, oh my gosh, don't do it. And it's like a, who the heck do I believe? Who do I believe? Who do I trust? It was one of those. I was like, I I don't know who to trust. I never do. If I ever open a Freida McFadden book, I never know who to look at for proper advice. I don't even know if the person whose perspective we're in is like reliable. It is one of those thrillers, and wow, this did that perfectly. Even though I did love this one, it clearly isn't rated very highly, but it's not because I didn't like it, it's because in comparison to how I read my thrillers and what I like out of my thrillers, this really didn't give much. Would I recommend this one? Yes, but I'm very, very, very picky about my thrillers, and this one was pretty good, but not great. But I'm determined. I'm gonna become a Freida McFadden girly if it kills me. I literally am. I'm just invested at this point. Like, I need to read them all. You know? I need to. Next up is Remarkable by Lizzie Foley. I actually have the physical copy of this one as well. Well, apparently I can't stand books up here anymore. That was the whole point of me doing it like this. Come on, gather your bearings, man. This was the first book in rereading books that changed my life video, and wow. I originally read this when I was in 3rd, 4th, maybe 5th grade, so grade school, and I just remember absolutely eating this book up, loving it, the adventure, and it was amazing, so on and so forth. Revisiting it at the ripe old age of 18 was definitely something. I still have so much love, respect, admiration, and everything for this book, but it definitely is not hitting as hard as I was for like 10-year-old me, which is obviously to be expected, right? Like, but I do still really hold this book so dear to my heart, and it means so much to me. Would I recommend you read it? I mean, sure. I sat down and read this in like 2.5 hours. Like, it's not bad, right? But don't go into it looking for like your next 5-star read, please. Like, it's literally just cute. In here we follow Jane. I'm not kidding, her name is Jane, and she lives in this remarkable town called Remarkable, where I was wrong. It's not fantasy. It's very much just everybody in this town is really good at something. For example, her sister's really good at math and her brother's really good at like realistic portrait paintings, right? Her dad's a famous author and her mom is like really good at organization. Like, it's really just weird stuff like that. Anywho, going back and reading this was fun. I don't think I'll be picking it up again, but I will probably keep it on my shelves just for sentimental purposes, because at this point, I'm attached. I have become attached, and I think that's okay, because I don't really keep any books I'm attached to. I don't even know why I'm talking about this. Okay, let's move on. Next up, we have The Sweetest Connection by Denise Williams, and when I read this on my list, I'm like, what even was this? What did I read? What was this? So I didn't know this going into it, but The Sweetest Connection is actually a novella that is part of like this series of books that she has. I'm pretty sure it's called like The Airport Love Stories or something like that. Like, it's super duper cute, and I now want to read all of them. But I listened to The Sweetest Connection as an audiobook because I was just looking for a fun, upbeat romance that was quick and would get me back into the mood of reading a physical book. Because for whatever reason, if I listen to an audiobook, it makes me want to read a physical book. I don't know. However, I can't remember literally anything about this other than the fact that they both work in the airport and they fall in love. But like, that's all you need to know, right? Like Miss Catherine Center said, predictable but amazing and lovely, and I love it, and just you know, that's exactly how I feel. It was sweet. There was a connection, and I do see them 100% being endgame. I liked it very much. Next up, we have another audiobook, but this is an audiobook like, oh gosh, okay? That totally didn't make any sense, but I didn't know this going into it, but I read Three Majors and a Margarita by Annette Marie, I think is how you pronounce her name. And I didn't realize this going in, but she has like a whole universe of books. Like, I think there's like 30 or something. And this is one series in that universe. And oh my god, I love it, okay? I genuinely love it. Going completely off the rails, let's switch it up and talk about Zodiac Academy for a second. I have not actually read that series. I want to, but I haven't read it yet. And what I've heard from other people is that you go into Zodiac Academy with wanting to be entertained. You don't go into it looking for like your next 5-star read or you know, like wonderful literature, gonna be the next Picasso type situation. No, it is literally for entertainment purposes only, and that is exactly how I feel about the Three Majors and a Margarita. Like, as far as fantasies go, it is so straightforward, but it is so funny, you guys. It is so funny. I once again cannot. Let me see if I can do names. It's Kai, Ezra, and Aaron, but I can never remember our main girl's name because we're in a perspective. So why would I know? Anyways, female main character is looking for a job and ends up getting one at this bar. And unbeknownst to her, there's actually a whole other like magical kingdom type situation living in the world that humans have no idea about. And she happened to stumble upon a bar that is technically a guild and becomes like acquainted with everybody in this guild and goes on a little mission. Like, I love it so much, and I love it so much, and it's so funny. It's so funny. Is it the most well-written thing I've ever read? No. Is it fantastic? Am I going to recommend it till the day that I die? No. But do I still recommend it? Yeah. Literally only pick it up if you're looking for entertainment, because it's entertaining as hell, but it's definitely not like, oh my god, I love it so much, and I'm gonna frame it and put it on my wall. No, it's, oh my god, I love it so much. Like, what the hell am I reading? You know, it's that type of vibe. Nonetheless, I highly recommend picking up Three Majors and a Margarita. Just know that it is like an 8-book series within a world. But speaking of that, I didn't know anything about this world going into it, so you can totally start here. I am probably going to visit the other series depending on like what happens as I work my way through this one, because I'm going to. It's so funny. I am repeating the same phrase over and over again. Just Three Majors and a Margarita, entertaining, funny. If you're looking for a funny fantasy, go with that. Next up, we have quite a big book, which is going to be The Assassin's Curse by Christopher Rowe. I just said The Assassin's Curse by Christopher Rowe. Christopher Rowe is our main character. The book is written by Kevin Sands. Wow, so I'm kind of losing it. This is like the book that I tabbed this month, so it looks super pretty, and I had to show you because I'm obsessed with anything I've ever tabbed in my life. This is the third book in the Blackthorn Key series, which I have talked about and raved about so much. So much. And now we have reached the point in the series where this is where I stopped reading it as a kid. I could never get through Call of the Wraith or Wrath. I've literally never finished it. But this one I have finished like 18 times over, okay? Like, I love this book so much. So it should come as a surprise to absolutely no one when I say that this got 5 stars for me. All the way around. Oh my god. This is like my childhood Percy Jackson. Like, I love it as much as people love Percy Jackson and Harry Potter. This is like my Narnia. This is my kryptonite. This is mine. God, I love it. I really cannot say a lot about the plot in this because it very heavily revolves around what happened in books 1 and 2. But in here, we watch our characters grow. They go on another little mystery adventure, and it's, once again, a beautiful, wonderful, amazing ride that I highly recommend you take. I will never stop talking about the Blackthorn Key series. It is literally so amazing, and I really want to finish it in 2025. Please ignore the fact that the entire series is on my 2024 TBR. I got at least halfway there. Next up is The Silence of the Lambs by Thomas Harris. This book started out as a book club book like 4 months ago, but it turned into me just finishing it before the end of 2024 because our book club kind of fell apart and everyone got really busy, and I didn't want to leave any books on my currently reading in Goodreads as I went into the new year, but I still ended up doing it. Anywho, The Silence of the Lambs is the second book in the Hannibal Lecter series, and I absolutely despised the first book, by the way. The only reason that I read the first one in the first place is because we wanted to read The Silence of the Lambs as a book club book, and I was like, yeah, sure, just let me read the first one first. But they're like, no, you don't need to do that. Yes, you do. Oh my god. They're not like directly connected, but I wanted to know if there was any important backstory, and I feel like there was. Reading Red Dragon, which is the first book in the Hannibal Lecter series. I feel like by reading that, I got more of a setup for book 2, which I'm glad because I actually ended up enjoying book 2 more. We focus a lot more on the Hannibal Lecter character himself, I feel like, in this book, which is actually like a breath of fresh air. And because of that, I actually will probably be finishing this series because there's only 2 books left and I want to know what happens, oddly enough. And with me saying all that, you would probably think that I liked the book, but I really I didn't. It's just, I need to know, I need to know. I don't really like the writing. I'm not attached to any of the characters, and I don't really like how Mr. Thomas Harris tells his stories. Personally, it's not for me, but it's still compelling enough that I want to know what happens to our characters, and I'm invested to see where they go in life and what happens and what doesn't. You get what I'm saying? So that's that. I mean, like, I have no other words. I honestly, yeah. Let's move on to the next book. Next up, we have The 7.5 Deaths of Evelyn Hard Castle. Okay. I was so incredibly excited for this book when I was picking it out for my November TBR. I was over the moon excited to open this up and read the story. I was, wow. I have never been more disappointed in a book in my life than I have with this one. I believe I read 60% of it physically until I was like, I can't do it. Like, I was literally talking to my mom, like, Mom, this is so bad. Like, I literally can't do it anymore. I'm gonna DNF it. I cannot be bothered. But then I'm like, no, you know what? I was so excited and I want to see if it gets better. So I finished it as an audiobook, and I should not have wasted my time reading it as an audiobook. Oh my god. This is so disappointing in so many ways. It literally... This had such an interesting premise, and I was so excited to solve the murder of Evelyn Hard Castle, but it ended up being disappointing all the way around. The main character, whose perspective we're in, is low-key pissing me off the entire time because, God, he just does. He really just does. And then I can't talk about this too much because it, like, takes place in the book, but the whole fact that there's, like, those other people who are doing that thing that directly affects what our main character is doing is so peeving, and it's like, why? Literally, why? Like, that was not advertised at all on the back. You get what I'm saying? If I would have known that, I wouldn't have picked it up because that is one of the main reasons why I like despise this book. It also was just really confusing, and I feel like there was way too many elements that were not explained enough for it to be plotted out like it was. Like, it was just like, what? This is so dumb. Like, I don't understand what's happening. But, you know, maybe I'm the problem. I don't know. I just really did not like the 7.5 Deaths of Evelyn Hard Castle. I think it had so much potential, and I would have loved it if it was written better and described better. You know what? Maybe I have Stephen King to blame. Throwback to fairy tale. God, I love that book. Next up, we have the third and final book that I reread in my Rereading Books That Changed My Life series, and this one, oh god, I could talk about this one forever. This right here is Lightlark by Alex Aster. I'm sure you've heard of it if you are a part of the book community, or maybe it's considered like a book talk OG at this point. I don't know. But I absolutely devoured this on my second read through. Like, ooh, brother. I think I read it in like 2 or 3 days. It's so compelling, and you just want to know what happens. And while I remembered like most of the main plot points in here, I didn't remember a whole bunch of the little stuff, which I'm glad I reread it before jumping into Skybane and Nightshade. That's wrong. Nightbane and Skyshade later this year in 2025. I'm glad that I reread it. I feel it like it's really important that I did. I remember being so incredibly pissed at the end of this book when I read it the first time because I was mad with how our romance ended up. And honestly, going back into it with a new perspective and fan art, thank you fan artists, I understand now, and I love everything about this. There are so many different ways that this could go. In so many different ways that I hope it goes, and so many different ways that I hope it doesn't go. Like, I am just so enthralled to see what happens in this world and with our characters and just everything everywhere all at once. But if you haven't heard of Lightlark, to dumb it down to toddler level, all of the kingdom's leaders come to this sentinel to solve a puzzle in order to save their kingdoms from curses. Sounds super straightforward, actually ends up being a lot of drama, both that feels like family drama and also just friendship drama and relationship drama in general and kingdom drama and people dying and ooh and oh my god, yes. I love Lightlark, and I am so excited to read Skybane. Why do I keep messing it up? Shadow, Nightbane, and Skyshade. Oh my lord. Next up, we have another romance audiobook. I was apparently in a romance mood this month, and this one is going to be Quarantine Crush by Moxie Rose and Heather Hildenbrand. This one was weird because I, once again, was just looking for a quick romance before I jumped into another, like, in-depth big book, and I mean, I definitely got that, but it was weird reading about the quarantine now. It was weird. I don't really know if I would recommend this one because there was points in it where I'm like, oh, why are we talking about it like that? You know, like, I didn't really love how we talked about just social media so much in this book. In the fact that TikTok is called flip-flop in it, that was funny as hell, but it was also weird. And like I get why the authors have to do it because of copyright and all those things, right? But like flip flop, there wasn't something better out there. Like all I could think about, like literally all I could think about was the shoes, like flip flop shoes, and I couldn't do it. It was okay. It wasn't anything special. It was cute. It was very much a friends to lovers, and I think if you're looking for something quick, witty, a little bit funny, also very much like, oh my god, just sit down and have a conversation, this is for you. You're welcome. Next up, we have my library book read of the month, which is going to be Uncanny by David Gillius. That was not right at all. It is David MacInnis Gill. I just shoved his last names together. So this is advertised as like a YA horror, eerie, mystery type situation, and that's definitely what this is. But I genuinely think that this needed like another round of editing or to be fleshed out more, because while the main plot points were there, I think we lost a lot of the integrity of the book. And here we follow Willow, who ends up getting sucked into the magical side of the human world and has to navigate having like magical powers now, and just like Loki being hunted down. Okay. And that concept seemed like so exciting to me because she's literally like 16 doing this, right? Like it was like, oh my god, it's gonna be so funny, it's so good. Like I was excited. And this book is broken up into parts, and for the first 2 or 3 parts, I definitely felt that. Like we were totally with a teenage kid who loves hockey, just had her birthday, is close with like a couple friends, and is just kind of like a loner outside of that. Like that was perfectly encapsulated. But I feel like the magical side of it wasn't really explained enough to the point where just the urgency was like there in your face of what was going on, because how this was described felt more of like a laid back thing, but in reality she was like literally about to die the entire book. You get what I'm saying? I think this is really, really good. I really liked Uncanny, but I think it needs another round of someone with professional reader eyes looking at it and being like, hey, maybe you need to describe this more, because you know, it's a little bit confusing, but honestly it was pretty good for what it was, and I read it, so yay for me. Next up, we have another freaking romance audiobook. Literally on a roll with my romances. Holy cow. And this one is going to be Do You Take This Man by Denise Williams. I totally read something else by her. Oh my god, she wrote The Sweetest Connection. I was like, Denise Williams? That sounds so familiar. That's so silly. I didn't even know I did that. Okay, Do You Take This Man? Let's talk about it. In here, our female main character is a divorce attorney who on the side works as a, what do you call it? A wedding officiary. She's the person who officiates weddings. And the main male character is the wedding planner, and they end up working, I think it's like 8 or 9 different weddings together. And of course, they fall in love. Now, I knew this going in, but they very much started off as friends with benefits before going to the relationship aspect of things. And honestly, I wanted to bash their heads together the entire time, because all they needed to do was have a conversation. Like an honest conversation. That's all I needed to do. And while I understand that I knew that going in, it is still so frustrating to watch dumb people do dumb things, okay? It is so frustrating. Nonetheless, I did finish Do You Take This Man, and it was something. It was there. I read it. I don't really have any like passionate feelings about it other than the fact that they needed to sit down and have a conversation, okay? Like, that's my only note. Sit down, have a conversation, take a chill pill, eat some tea. Eat some tea? How about drink some tea? It was interesting. It was a wild ride, but I think I found a new trope that I do not like. The we really can't have a conversation trope. And it was like how long was this book? Like 400 pages? Yeah, 352 pages. Have a conversation. Get some help. In the home stretch, we're in the final 3, and the third to last book is going to be Dark Arts and a Daiquiri by Annette Marie. This is the second book in that really funny, witty, magical human series that I was just talking about. I am literally obsessed with this world, and it's so funny, and God, I love it so much. Although this one was a little bit more disappointing than what I was wanting. Our female main character, whose name I still cannot remember, ends up going on like a by herself adventure, which I would have loved for her to stay with the dynamic trio of guys that she made friends with in the first book. I think that would have been lovely. So I didn't love this one as much as the first one, but it definitely wasn't bad either. I am totally going to continue to read the series. I'm obsessed with it. I love the silly little adventures that they go on. I think all of the magical creatures are so funny. It's a time. It's a time for entertainment, and I was entertained, and that is that. Read it or don't. Who doesn't love a good entertaining fantasy? You know? Anyways, Dark Arts and Daiquiri got a 2.5 out of 5 stars. I will be continuing with the series anyways. This one, I might cry when I talk about it, but we're still going to talk about it, because it is the second to last book that I read in 2024. And mine doesn't have the dust jacket on it, but this is Divine Rivals by Rebecca Ross. Oh my god. I have so many feelings about this book. So many feelings that I am actually in the middle of a vlog, like a reading vlog of me filming me reading Divine Rivals and Ruthless Vows. I still cannot pick up Ruthless Vows. It has been almost a week and I still cannot pick up Ruthless Vows because I'm going to sob the second that I open those pages, okay? I love this. I love this. I love this so much. This honestly does not follow the typical fantasy plot that I was expecting this to be, and it's not what I expected it to be. But I loved it anyway. In the beginning, it starts off as like a typical friends to, or like enemies, not even enemies, like adversaries to lovers, fantasy romance, romantasy. But then it changes, and then it changes again, and I am unwell. I am unwell, and I don't actually know if I can form coherent sentences about this right now. I don't think I've ever felt attached to characters in the way that I do with these ones. And I don't know why. Like, there's nothing like absolutely special about them. I just love them, which is weird for me to say because I normally don't just love anything. I normally have to critique it, but I just love this. I just love it. The only thing that I have like a mild issue with is what happens, I would say like 3/4 through the book, when Kit and oh my gosh, Roman? No, that's the same man. When Ronan and I keep trying to call her Violence. Is her name Violet? Is that why I keep trying to call her Violence? No, her name is Iris. Another flower. I'm sorry. Iris and Ronan, they make a decision like 3/4 of the way through the book after they discover who each other is. That happens in this book. Sorry if that's a mini spoiler. I thought that was obvious. And that decision really threw me because I'm like, why? Why would you do that? Not even like circumstantial, like why would you do that with what's happening in the world? It's just why would you do that, period? Why would you do that, period? But maybe this takes place in a different time, in like the 1800s. I mean, they do like casually type on typewriters, so maybe I'm dumb. Was the typewriter invented in 1800? Probably not. I'm not good with timelines. I love this. He falls first, and I fell second. I fell victim to loving a book that has actually broken me, and I don't think I'm ever going to recover. That's dramatic, but I love it, and I'm torn between just everything about this book. It's like my baby. It's like my child. And then last but not least, we have the final book of both the month and the year, which honestly, I'm a little scared to talk about, and that is going to be Powerless by Lauren Roberts. So first off, do you want to address the fact that I know that this is supposed to be exactly like Red Queen, which is a series that was released in 2015. I have not read that series, although I am going to pick it up eventually. I just don't have it physically on me, so didn't read it yet, but will eventually. With that in mind, right, of me being like, I've never read it, I'm not going to accuse someone of plagiarism or any of that. That's not me. That's not my jam. But going into it with the mindset of, oh, this is probably going to be like a typical fantasy plot, which it is, I still didn't love it. I finished this book on the last day of December, so I'm still thinking about it. I'm still actively like wanting to know what happens in this world. I don't love it. I don't love it. I don't love it. Like, I don't like it as much as everybody else. I really don't. I don't know why I keep saying everyone's entitled to their opinions, but I feel like this is just one of those books where I'm like, I didn't really have any set expectations, but it's not this. It also could be the fact that because this follows such a typical fantasy plot that I didn't love it because I knew, like, main plot point wise what was going to happen. It was just waiting for all the balls to drop, which kind of makes sense because like everything that happened in here, other than that death that happens in here, like the really big one, wasn't expecting that. Wow. Also wasn't expecting the death that takes place before that. Like the last two deaths in this book, those hurt. Well, one of them hurt. The other one was like, yeah, stick it to the man. I do love the characters in this book. I think that the main male character and main female character, Peyton and Kai, I think that they have a very typical relationship when it comes to enemies to lovers and fantasies, and that's not a bad thing by any means. But this book also put me in like the same like love triangle position that I keep comparing to the Inheritance games with Grayson, Jackson, and our main male character Avery. But this time it was between Peyton. Is his name Kit? maybe, oh my god, when I was reading this book, I'm like, I totally have read another book where his name is Kit. And that was literally the book before this. Is his name Kit, or am I tripping? Oh my god, I'm not. Okay, his name's Kit. Sorry. And here, Ronan is also referred to as Kit, and I'm like, I literally just read about a Kit. Like, what's happening? Anyways, couldn't figure out for the life of me, but Kit. Kit, Peyton, Kai, that, God, threw me, absolutely threw me. And I know it was never really presented as like oh, Kit and Peyton are gonna get together, but like, the way that they do things and the way that Kit treated Peyton made me feel things, unfortunately. But I read this, and I look forward to seeing where it goes, but I'm not dying to read on. I mean, there's really not much more to say than that. I don't know why it's 400 pages. I didn't love it, but unfortunately, I'm invested. So, Powerless by Lauren Roberts. Final book of 2024. That's a stack. But with that, we have officially reached the end of our time here together today, wrapping up the final month of 2024. I feel very bittersweet about this. I honestly wish that I could have read more in 2024, which is insane, looking at like the statistics of everything, which we'll talk about in my 2024 reading wrap up. And it's not that I didn't feel like I didn't read enough, it is just like I wanted to read so many other books that I didn't get to. But it's okay. You know, I can get to them in 2025. I have a whole other 12 months ahead of me that I can bring some of these worlds with me, like the series, bring them with me, and then discover new ones as well, which I'm very excited for. But I should probably save that speech for when we're doing a 2024 wrap up and not just December. Whoopsies. Anywho, thank you so much for wrapping up the last month of 2024 with me. I cannot wait to see what this next year holds. I gotta stop talking like it's a 2024 wrap up. This was fun. I enjoyed this. I hope you got something out of it, good or bad. And I will definitely be here in January to wrap up another month of reading with you. But until then, I hope that your guys' book worlds are treating you just as well as mine treat me, and I cannot wait to see you next Wednesday. You guys have an absolute wonderful week with your reading adventures, and I'll see you then. Bye!